I am sorry about that, guys. Thanks. Somebody let me know. If you don't see that recorder on by the time we start the lesson, please let me know because sometimes I'll forget. I usually start it at the beginning, but I don't want to start it 15 minutes early. Yes, I did, Zach. You're right. Thank you. Okay, so if you notice that, please let me know by the time we start so that everybody gets to have the lesson. All right. Very good. Okay, guys. So desertification can occur, topsoil can be washed away, and ultimately entire ecosystems might disappear. We saw this happen once before here in the United States in the 1930s, and it's one of the reasons that we had the Great Depression. Okay? It's one of the reasons because the topsoil was bad, it blew away, and the Dust Bowl happened, and so we've seen this happen before, and excuse me, guys, the economic impact is horrible when that happens. All right, Eve, let's go to the next slide real quick. Okay, so climate. Which of these three climates is temperate? Which is consistent, ranging from tropical to desert, and which is variable from temperate in the south to subarctic and Arctic in the north? Which one would be temperate from in the south to subarctic and Arctic in the north? Which would be consistent, ranging from tropical to desert, and temperate? The United States is temperate. Very good. Okay. So the United States is temperate. Mexico tends to be tropical to desert, right? And because it's further south. The further you go north, the more Arctic the temperature climate becomes. In the middle latitudes, that's when we have, like the United States is located at, that's where you have your between 30 and 60 degrees latitude. That's where you have your most temperate climates, and then southern climates, southern latitudes below 30, you're going to be looking at more desert and tropical. Okay, very good. Let's go to the next one. So we understand the three climates, right? Got it. Very good. Let's go up a little further. And how many degrees of north latitude and south latitude do we have? Remember, I said Mexico and your tropical and desert climates would be 0 to 30. The United States 30 to 60, and Canada 60 to 90. Right? So you have 90 degrees of latitude. Don't forget that. And then if you break it into the three parts, 30, 60, 90, you'll know where your climates are. Okay. Eve, next slide, please. Good. And that's exactly what we're talking about here. A few factors affecting the climate of North America. 1, elevation. 2, the prevailing westerly winds. And 3, El Nino. El Nino is something that happens in the Western Pacific, and thunderstorms form, and you start to get the warmest water in that far Western Pacific. In an El Nino year, the warmest water moves further east towards the Gulf along the Gulf Stream. Across the Pacific, thunderstorms disrupt the jet stream and the weather patterns change. So we usually have wetter, colder winters that year, and more rain and more thunderstorms in the spring. That's El Nino. Okay? All right. So everybody knows what El Nino is, right? Yes, I'm going to send you the notes. No problem. Okay. All right. Moving right along. Next slide. Because like I said, I want to get to an activity this afternoon. Okay, real quickly, we're going to talk about triangular trade. Triangular trade, don't forget, deals with the trade of goods and exchanges across the Atlantic, from North America to Europe, from Europe to Africa, from Africa back to North America, particularly to the Caribbean. Sugar, tobacco, and cotton and plantation goods are being moved from North America, particularly in the South. They're being moved to Europe. In Europe, they're being made into manufactured goods, and then they're being brought to Africa and exchanged for what? What are they being exchanged for? Yeah, I added more to this PowerPoint, guys. Okay, now in Africa, what are they being exchanged for? On the west coast of Africa, slaves. And who's trading these guys? The Europeans are not jumping off the ship with nets and going after and capturing slaves. These guys, and they're bringing guns to them. Yes, these guys, the African tribes are actually capturing each other and selling each other. And that has been a tradition for them for centuries. And the Europeans took advantage of it. And so then they're bringing the slaves back to plantations, especially early on in the Caribbean, where you can grow in those tropical climates, you can grow things like sugar. And then they're being brought to the United States later on because of cotton and because of tobacco. The sugar is in the southern latitudes, okay? But the cotton and tobacco are in the southern United States. All right, moving right along. Let's go to the next one. Eve, can you move me? Can you move the slide? Thank you. Okay, so positive and negative impacts of the Colombian exchange. Colombian exchange continues to be one of the most significant results of the age of exploration. The positives: new foods, livestock, better diets. Okay, what are some of the negatives? I worked there at Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A, huh? Are they good to work for? I thought they would be. Okay, guys. So positives: food supplies, livestock, better diets. Spread of diseases on the negative side. Yes. Slavery, negative side. Okay. Moving right along. Next slide, Eve. We're going to keep moving here. Okay. So let's look at something here. Okay. People from Europe and Asia, Eurasia, are growing wheat and barley, which is high in fiber and nutrients. These grains can be spread quickly with just a toss of a hand, and they generate massive food supplies. That's excellent, right? Because with massive food supplies, you can feed you can grow your crops, you can feed your livestock and your people. Growing this much food leads to exponential population growth throughout Europe, Asia, and Africa. That population growth leads to large workforces that are needed to grow, harvest, and trade the crops. And then, who oversees that workforce? That's where governments come in. What is the role in these early societies of governments? It's to organize and oversee the society itself and to make sure everybody's following the rules. But then there are different ways that we implement those rules, like nobody is anarchy, one is monarchy and dictatorships, few is oligarchies and the junta, and all is the democracy and the direct democracy and the representative democracy. Now, one thing that I noticed, especially in the last one where we had the question about governments, guys, there is a difference between Democrats and Republicans and democracies and a republic. What's the difference, somebody? Can anybody give me a difference between Democrats and Republicans versus democracy and a republic? One is a what? Or two of them are what? Okay, democracy. Okay, democracy and republics are what? Types of Yes, Eve, you're right. Government. Okay. Democrats and Republicans, they don't necessarily get along, but that doesn't make them types of government. What are they? Democrats and Republicans. They're political parties. Political parties are basically things that bring people together around a common group of ideas that they believe in. So Democrats and Republicans mix like oil and water, okay? Or gasoline and a match sometimes, literally. And with democracies and republics, they're both forms of governments. Yappering, you're right about that. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Next slide, next slide, next slide. Eve, can you do that for me? Good. Now, economics. Okay, don't forget that in a command economy, the further you get to a command economy, the more the government owns everything and regulates everything and controls the prices. The further you get to a market economy, the private sector owns everything. We own everything ourselves. Freedom to start your businesses or for businesses to fail, and we go by supply and demand. Those are the things that set the price. Now, a mixed economic system is a combination of the two. In the United States and in most countries, what do we have? We have more of a market economy, yes, but do we have a truly market economy? Does the government stay out of pricing on everything? Does the government deregulate everything? Of course not. So we have a mixed economy. There's always going to be a mix. You're never going to get, even China, who says they're communist, are not communist. Okay? There's always a mix. So most economies are mixed economies. You're never going to get to 100% market or 100% command. Everybody got that? Yes? Because you're going to see that a lot as we go on to different countries. Moving right along. Next slide, please. Yes. Okay. I want you to look at the first set of vocabulary words and tell me what they all have in common, please. First set of vocabulary words, the ones on the far left. Tell me what they have in common. Okay. Thank you, Crystal. You can't see what they say? Well, I'm trying to get them as big as I can, but I don't think I can get them any bigger. So, Canada and Ottawa, landforms, climate, population, culture, economy, and resource. These are all economic or all geographic terms, right? Now, then the second group says El Nino, La Nina, deciduous forests, glaciers, glaciation, fjords, weathering, erosion, renewable resources, non-renewable resources, prevailing westerlies, topography, elevation, ecoregions, and paleoclimatologists. That's okay, Aiden. Okay, all of these are dealing with what? Let me see if I can zoom in. Let me see. How about that? Does that make it better? Can you see? Can you see them any better? Because I did zoom. Yes? No? Okay. Migration, immigration, emigration. Okay, El Nino, La Nina, deciduous forests, glaciers, glaciation, fjords, weathering, erosion, renewable resources, non-renewable resources, Shane, if you raise your hand, I'll make you a moderator. Maybe you can get this to work for you. Okay, you got it? Can you get it to work there, Shane? It's not getting any bigger or smaller on your end, guys? Okay, there we go. Now I'm seeing it. All right. Uh-oh. Eve, you took me off. Okay, guys. All right. So what do El Nino, La Nina, deciduous forests, glaciers, glaciation, fjords, weathering, erosion, renewable resources, what do they all have in common? What do they all have in common? Topography, prevailing westerlies. Uh-oh. There. They're types of climate, right? And weather types, exactly. And they're also dealing with physical characteristics. Okay. Climate and geography, physical, right? The ones on the left are mostly human. The ones in the other ones are physical. And then we get to migration, immigration, emigration, push and pull factors, famine, oppression, anti-Semitism, the Homestead Act of 1862, Christopher Columbus, Amerigo Vespucci. Okay, free trade, Ronald Reagan. These are all terms that are coming out of the human and history part. These are all history. God, Golden Glory, the triangular trade. These are all history. All right, now let's look at the last one. Human migration impact on physical and human geography, desertification, deforestation, urbanization, human modification, pollution. These are all human environmental impacts, right? Overfishing, dam building, urban growth, suburban sprawl. All right, let us move to the next slide, please, Eve. Uh-oh. Let me go back to the file. Uh-oh. Oh, this is interesting. What did we do with our whiteboard, guys? Let us not try that again, okay? All right. You know what? We're going to move on. I'm going to give you all the notes. I'm going to move on to what I wanted to do anyway, which was to, I want to have a game, play a game with you guys. So let's do that. Can everybody see it? Yes? Good. Okay. Okay. Boy, we're just having some tech issues today, aren't we? Okay. So, is this statement true or false? The Mississippi River, Missouri, Ohio River system is the largest and most significant river system in North America. True or false? Okay, it is true. Okay. So let me pull up here. Is this statement true or false? Glaciers have sculpted mountains and carved out valleys, but no longer flow and shape the landscape today. Okay. So I'm going with B. And that is true. The answer is false. Okay. Okay. Is this statement true or false? The U.S. Congress passage of the Homestead Act in 1862 can be considered a pull factor that caused people to migrate to the United States. The fact that we were giving them 40 acres and a mule, that we were giving people land, is that a pull or a push factor? We were giving people, offering people land to come to the United States. Push or pull? It's a pull, so it's true. Okay. So, good. Is this statement true or false? Desertification can be caused either by climate change or destructive use of land. Is it only climate, or is it climate and destructive use of land? Either one. That is also, I believe, going to be true. So I'm going to go with you guys. Okay. The climate of Canada can best be described as A, variable. It varies from temperate in the south to subarctic and arctic in the north. B, it varies from semi-arid in the south to tundra in the north. C, consistent for most of the year, the country experiences cold and snow. What's the answer? It's A, yes. Okay. Long, narrow coastal valleys that were originally carved out by glaciers are called glaciated valleys, cirques, horns, or fjords. This one's a tougher one, isn't it? Okay, so everybody's saying D, and the answer is, you're right, D, fjords, which is where you'll find them in the north. El Nino has a far-reaching effect on the climate around what ocean? El Nino. Atlantic, Indian, Arctic, or Pacific? Most of you are saying D. Yes? Okay. The Appalachian Mountains are blank of the Rocky Mountains. North, south, east, or west? The Appalachians are, somebody click on that button for me. Eve or Zach, click on the right button for me. If you can. You can't. Okay. So the answer is east, right? Appalachians are to the east, Rockies are to the west. Washington is in what direction from Ottawa, Canada? North, south, east, or west? Okay, Washington, D.C. should be south of Canada, right? Anything in the United States is south of Canada. These winds are found in the middle latitudes between 30 and 60 degrees. Polar easterlies, trade winds, prevailing westerlies, or roaring 40s. Okay, this one was a tougher one, so you might want to mark this one down. The answer is the prevailing westerlies. It was C, guys. Good guess. Approximately what portion of North America is covered by forests? 1/4, 1/8, 1/3, 3/4. Okay, so y'all are saying a third? And the answer is a third. You guys are good. Good job. Which of these is not a push factor that would cause a person to consider migrating to a new country? Volcanoes and earthquakes, a vineyard or crop blight, excessive rent or cost of living, or they're all push factors. All of these are push factors, right? Canada's strong regionalism is mainly attributable to what? The collapse of the cod fishing industry, large differences in the distribution of natural resources, continuous large natural resource discoveries, or logging industry's adaptation of a more sustainable model. There's something about Canada that's interesting. The answer is B. Canada does not have its natural resources evenly distributed, guys. What percentage of the world's lumber harvest goes to paper production? You're saying C? Final answer on that one? Or should we get a 50-50? Let's get a 50-50 just to make sure. So it's A or C. Does anybody want to poll the audience? Most everybody is saying C. Let's see. You're right, 25%. Okay. Which body of water runs from high in the southern Colorado Rockies through the state of New Mexico, creates the political border between the United States and Mexico? Is it the Mississippi River, the Colorado River, the Rio Grande River, or the Columbia River? It is the Rio Grande River. And we're all millionaires, right? Good job, everybody. Take it. We'll see you guys on Monday. Any questions or anything, you email me. If you want a copy of the notes, I'll send them out. And then also email me, and I'll send you out some notes for next week by Friday. Bye, guys.